Hey, Expedite, what's going out there? It's your boy KORXKLL, and today, this is the second episode of the Commission. For a lot of you guys out there who don't know what the Commission is, it was a show that I had started a while back. This is when I first introduced BG to TikTok. Well, not to Tic Podcast, but he came on and joined Tic Podcast as a guest for the show, and it was supposed to be a multi-platform show where we get a chance to talk about the industry, being that Tic Podcast is a Xbox only type of podcast. So today I have a number of guests with me. I'm going to go ahead and let them rattle off who they are, give their promos out, and you can check out their videos and their channels. So let's start with Luke.
My name is Luke Croft. I'm the host of Player 3 Podcast, a weekly podcast. We cover everything Xbox One and PS4 on our stuff. You can follow us at Player 3 Podcast on Twitter and YouTube.com/Player 3 Podcast. And we're on all kinds of podcast services.
Cool. BG?
Broken Games HD, Weapon Wheel Podcast, hosted on Saturdays at 6 p.m. My channel cover all things gameplay. On the podcast, we cover all the gaming events for the week. And come check me out if you haven't already.
Gamer?
Yo, this is Gamer2323. Just wanted to thank Tic for having me on his podcast, and let's get into it.
All right. Anchor?
I am Anchorman, part of the Multiverse Podcast and Tic Podcast now. I just do a channel, talk about whatever.
Yeah, and starting controversial stuff with people.
I am the most controversial.
Ridiculous. And B Money?
Yeah, it's your boy B Money, straight from Tic Podcast, co-host. And no channel, but I'm out there in Twitter streets doing what I do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, man. So the first thing I want to do is I want to jump into talking about Street Fighter V before I get into talking about the Windows 10 Xbox event. Like this past week has been crazy. We had the whole thing with Quantum Break. Everybody was talking about Xbox games going to PC, and PlayStation was going to be on board with Street Fighter V. It was this big thing, and then all of a sudden it comes out, and people are just having all sorts of issues. There's content missing. There's just so much controversy going on with this game, and yet for whatever reason, this game is still highly rated in the media. I'm not calling media bias. All I'm saying is any other game usually would, probably get looked at differently or have their scores dropped. And it's just been this way lately with media and in gaming, where games that are either missing content or broken are still getting high scores. So I just want to ask you a question and get your opinions on what is your thoughts on what type of games the media is playing, and why are developers putting out half-ass games? Let's start with you, BG. Let's start with BG.
Specific, man.
Yeah.
So with Street Fighter, I believe what I believe the case was of why that got high review scores, even though it was broken, is because like with multiplayer parts of games, they usually aren't able to. With some games, they aren't able to tell like the matchmaking system is broken because it hasn't been released to the masses, right? So when they're playing it to the other people who have review copies, things are usually okay. Matchmaking is fine. Now, right. When it's released to all these people, then they realize, oh shit, it's broken. So that's kind of the flaw in giving out review copies, because before, things are all fine and dandy. When you release it to the masses, then that's when shit hits the storm.
Right.
Also, the other problem, as far as the lack of content with Street Fighter, is EVO. For anybody who doesn't know, EVO is the biggest fighting game tournament of the year, and Street Fighter is always the main event of the night for that, right? It's usually in July, and what they try to do is easily what Capcom tried to do is release the game a significant amount of months before EVO, so that the pro players can get their time into Street Fighter and practice, which was obviously the wrong thing to do and a mistake. because what you're doing is catering to the few, which are the pro players, so they can get their time in to practice for the tournament, and not the masses, which are most of the people who buy the game. So yeah, I get they're trying to cater to the pro players, which are their hardcore audience, but it still screws other people. And it was just a sign, because that's why they're releasing more, part of the story in like March, because they weren't done, but they're like, okay, we got to get this game out so the pro players can practice, right? So that's definitely the issue.
Gamer?
Do you guys have Street Fighter?
No.
I do.
Man. Bro, I mean, I was playing it today, and it's like, when you go to the battle lounge, that's the only way that I can actually like play against people. Like, when I actually search for matches, I can't find nobody. So it seems like the matchmaking system is like really broken right now. When I had did the vid about it and I was going at Capcom, I mean, I still blame them, but now I'm like starting to question if like the companies are like forcing these devs to like rush out their game before it's even made, because you can make that same case with Destiny, the Master Chief Collection, to where I think that got a 9 when that jump was beyond broken. And it's just like, I don't know if Sony and Microsoft like are just like trying to get these games out at a certain time because they're because they're trying to get sales off of the hype. But it's definitely an issue that's going on right now, to where like these games that people like are really hyped for, and when they come out, they have these issues with them, because like in the case of a Street Fighter, like I went into the game knowing that it was going to lack like a lot of content in the game. It has little to no storyline at all. The modes, really all you have is survival mode. When you go to versus mode, you can't even verse the computer. It's literally just you go to versus to play against someone else. You can't even play offline against the computer. I was like, really? So it lacks all of these modes. But what makes it even worse is this is a bare bones game, and the online is like broken. So it's literally like almost a useless game. Like, you paid $60 for like a searching simulator. It's literally like NCC all over again. Like, but it's just with Street Fighter. It has gotten a little bit better from yesterday, but still, again, like when you're actually like searching for games, it still takes way too long to find games, and the only way I can like play consistently is if I invite somebody. But yeah,
that's tough. Luke,
I think. Well, first of all, you asked why people continue to buy these games. I mean, why developers keep putting these games out, and I think it's because people keep buying them. Like there's no really economic repercussion for putting out a game that's only halfway done. And I think with Street Fighter, we had 2 times, like, they released 2 betas that were broken. They released a beta back in last summer, I believe, that had to get pulled down because it would never work, and then they released another beta that continued to have server issues that they had to update 2 or 3 times in the midst of just that closed beta. And so it shouldn't have been that much of a surprise to people when it released, fully and was still just as broken. But I think the timing probably has something to do with the idea that, like, it's exclusive to the PlayStation 4 as well, and they're like, look, here's the window you need to release this in so that you're not stepping on Uncharted, and you're not stepping on No Man's Sky in the summer, and you're not stepping on whatever we've got coming in the fall as well. Like, I just don't think there was that space for the game to get pushed back. But until we stop paying for games that it's evident that they're going to be broken upon release, then developers are just going to keep giving it.
I don't think people know this one.
Yeah, I don't think like people know. Like, you can't really tell when these games are going to be broken. Like, I was completely shocked how bad MCC. It literally took a year for that game to even become playable. Like, I can't you can't really judge, how these games are going to turn out, because I thought at the very least with the game like Street Fighter V, like the last thing I would have to worry about is trying to find matches online. So it's kind of
Especially when they had like 18 betas.
Yeah.
So do you guys think
That's the
that
biggest surprise for me, that they had so many betas and it just hasn't seemed like they've actually done anything with it.
Well, they never got any of those betas to work properly. That's the problem. And like Master Chief Collection, when that game was getting shown at various shows, people were saying like, this thing, there's something not right about this game. They're not showing us as much as they normally would of a game that we already know everything that's in it. Like, so there were those rumblings underneath that something wasn't right to begin with. And I think sometimes we just, especially with online-centric games, we need to give it time to prove itself a little bit that it's stable enough for us to throw $60 at.
My only thing out of all of this is that I just keep going back to, and I'm not trying to put the blame on Sony, not at all. But they're the ones that backed this game. They're the ones that supported this game. So didn't they have somebody helping Capcom with the production of this game? Or it has nothing to do with the production, it's just mainly the server issues.
Well,
no, the game is solid when you can play it.
They said the game itself is like really fundamentally like great.
Okay.
Yeah, the game is good.
The servers are apparently the only thing that just don't work right. The game fundamentally works completely fine.
And it's just, but there's not enough content. There's no single player campaign. There's no training mode. There's modes missing from the game.
Junk is bare bones, fam.
And they sold it to you for $60.
Yep.
Now, is all the DLC for it free?
That's the thing. I'm hearing the DLC is free.
Yeah, everything for the game is free.
Well,
you can pay for a season pass if you don't, you know what I'm saying?
I'm telling people,
like all the cash for it, but it's all free.
I took a look at it, and I watched also another video about it. They were talking about how the game, the way it's going to work is that you can buy things with Zenny, which is a purchasable currency, which is like $6 per character, but there's no, it's not. Well, you can get it, or you can earn inside currency, which is like 10,000 or whatever the currency's called. But that's the equivalent of like 2,000 wins for one character.
That's crazy. That's a lot of work. That sounds like a lot of work.
That's the thing. Like you can grind to get all of this stuff for free, or you can just take the cheat route and buy it. But
Whatever happened to just playing a game and beating it with a certain character to unlock another character?
we're all casuals, bro.
You can make money off that.
I get that, but it's like ridiculous. It's worse than like when Call of Duty sells you skins for your weapons. You know what I'm saying?
People buy it though.
I know they do. They make a ton of money, man. Like I remember at the beginning of during the 360 generation, everybody was talking about, oh, don't buy DLC, it'll never work. And here we are today, and this thing makes billions of dollars for, the industry, and companies are making millions and millions of dollars. It's just crazy that people are really going out to spend money. And I guess when you look at it, it's pretty insignificant if you pay $3, $4, $5 for it. But then over time, that thing accumulates. Next thing you know, it's kind of like with KI. It's like I never got people who would spend $5 on a character or something like that or whatever it was. And I'm saying just get the game for $20. You get all the characters for $20, and then they turn around and you can get the whole game for $40. At least with KI, you got the story mode a little while later, but mostly everything was in the game. And then you got each character every month and stuff like that, and then eventually by the end of the season they had added the actual story mode. But that game started out as $20. I think what they probably should have did was, and I hate to say it, but maybe they should have sold the game in increments as well, instead of dropping a full 64. Then you got to wait till June for the campaign. I
really think they just did it for the pros, because especially I think they had an idea like the online wasn't going to work as good because. And they were fine with releasing it like that and like fixing it after, because pros don't really play online like that. That's not their thing. They're like offline trainers, and they like even travel to like other states just to practice with somebody. Like they take their shit very seriously. So that's why I think they knew it wasn't gonna work right. But like the pros wanted it early. And the pros don't really play online. They don't give a damn about that. So it's like,
I also think when you go to piecemeal something like that, where you go to say like, hey, we'll release this for X amount of dollars, then come summer, you can buy this piece for X amount of dollars. You're having to kind of reconvince people of the value of that thing a few months later. And from what I've heard, the story mode that's coming out for this thing is only going to be like an hour or two long. And so if you can convince people straight up front that, like, hey, by the end of it, it's going to be $60 worth of content, you're not having to come through and say, hey, this is going to be $20 worth, and then we're back having this conversation about whether or not it was worth it when it finally releases the story mode.
Is the story mode going to have one story, or will every character have their own individual storyline?
Every character, I believe.
Okay. That's interesting.
I'm not even sure.
Because I'm like, if you give me an hour worth of story in a fighting game, that's insane. That's a lot for a fighting game. Usually they just give you a couple of pages of dialogue and you move on. You know what I'm saying?
The story.
Yeah, it's a full cinematic story, kind of how like Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat?
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat story was pretty beast. I like the way they had that set up. That's pretty badass, the way Mortal Kombat has it set up, for sure.
You know what's concerning? That, well, at least with the reviews, right after Battlefield 4, after that whole fiasco, it seemed like everybody was, all right, we're going to wait for all these games to have a big online component. We're going to wait and see how the servers hold up, and they would hold off the review and do a review in progress. IGN, I thought, well, at least they were the first big site that I noticed was doing this review in progress. And so you saw games like Titanfall, Evolve, Master Chief Collection, they all waited for a review in progress to test the servers, and they waited and it reflected on the score. But for some reason, certain games seem to be getting a pass on this. Ryan McCaffrey's been doing a pretty good job about waiting for games for the servers to come out to see if they're any good at all. But like games like Metal Gear Solid 5, which had an online component which launched later, which they didn't do in part of their initial review, which I know they did launch a little bit later, but still. And Street Fighter got a pass, and Battlefield Hardline got a pass. Another Battlefield game after having a huge fiasco about it. It just seems like, well, I don't understand why certain games get a pass, but oh no, we're gonna let other ones slip.
Probably because they got paid to. I don't mean up front, but like marketing wise, you know, you have publishers and media, not publishers, excuse me, you have publications and media out there that get marketing dollars, and that's how they stay afloat, and that's where you see all these advertisements for new games coming out, and you review a game. Like literally, there's a game coming out for Xbox One. It's a Japanese RPG called Stranger in Sword City. They're having a contest for people to review the game. You'll get a copy. 30 people's going to get a copy. You put your website on there and everything like that. They give you the game. You review the game. And if your review was the best review, you know, your actual like website and review and everything gets like published on their game, like on their box or whatever it is, and they put it on the website, and you get like, you really get crazy. I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for? You get like
Exposure.
Yes, there you go. You get crazy exposure on that. And I applied for it not because of the exposure, but more than anything, just to play the game early. Like I want to play the game early because I've been fiending for a JRPG on the Xbox One. So I get a chance to try it out. But how many people do you think is going to give this game a negative review? Even if the game is bad, how many people is going to give this game a negative review? It's just not going to happen. Every review is going to be biased in the best possible way, so that way they can get the exposure that they need from this company. I think that's really what it is. You have a company like Konami who is, you know, they've had their struggles, they've had their issues and things like that, and they want the best possible score for the last Metal Gear game coming out. And nobody's trying to wait that long for the online component. And I'm pretty sure Konami put out a lot of promotion for Metal Gear, especially being Kojima's last game.
I think a lot of reviewers are turning into like liberal hipsters too.
I was just saying they're all turning into Game Informer.
Like I'm real open to what's considered a game, right? Like a lot of people that play off what's a game and what's not, and I consider myself really open to different types of games that are, you know, not traditional, but like these, I feel like these journalists just accept anything as a game, like, and their way of, you know, controlling for that is calling it art. I'm like, fuck out of here. It's not a game. You call it art if you want to, but it's not a game. Like a lot of these walking simulators are coming out and they're giving them high scores, and I play these walking simulators. I'm like, bro, this is not a fucking game. This is a walking simulator. Sure, if you want to, it's playable. So I think anything that's actually gives the player control to move, they call it a game now. So it's like, whatever. Like Firewatch. All you do is walk around in that game. 9.3. Fuck out of here. What are you talking about?
I haven't played that game yet. It's interesting though. I have seen gameplays of it. I mean, but you know what? That's Sony's thing though. That's what Sony does, man. They've done that with this whole interactive art situation where you kind of move left and right, you press a few quick time event buttons here and there, and people find those games very fascinating and interesting. Me personally, I don't. I find them boring. I need to be able to like really play the game and interact with it. But I can't knock anybody who plays the game. But I agree. I don't find those games to be games.
Like, I don't think Firewatch has any connection. That studio, I don't even know what studio makes Firewatch, but I don't think they have any connection with Sony specifically. But like the other ones, some of them are okay, but like this one, Campo Santo, I think is developer. I never heard of them, but whatever.
Yeah, well, Firewatch was a Kickstarted game, so this is their very first studio. It was started by some guys that worked on the first season of The Walking Dead, and I'm a guy that played Firewatch and really enjoyed it. And I think giving players agency over a story does make it a game where you get to kind of craft these characters and make decisions based on what you think that character would do in this situation. I mean, I think that's just as much the definition of a game as a first-person shooter or an action game or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it requires a certain level of agency. It could range from different things, but like when it comes to a walking simulator, we mean a game that your sole purpose is to walk through, find something, maybe pick it up, and then put it back, and then nothing happens. The story doesn't change. What was that game? Was it Everyone's Gone to the Rapture?
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like that one, where you're literally just walking around listening to things.
What's funny about that game is that I actually seen people give the game a low score because you couldn't sprint. Like early on, nobody knew how to sprint, and that thing was getting like 7s, and then all of a sudden, people just started giving it high reviews once they learned how to sprint. It's just funny.
Oh, what was that thing? There was a
What game was this?
about that.
That was
Rapture. Whatever.
Rapture.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they couldn't. People couldn't sprint in the game. They didn't know how to sprint. There was no tutorial on how to sprint. So the media was giving the game like a 7 or a 6 because it was just really long and drawn out. But then somebody discovered that if you hold the right bumper for a period of time, it would increase your speed over time, and then you'd be able to go through things a little bit faster. And everybody went back and started changing their scores and increasing the scores and stuff like that. And I'm like, damn, it's like the littlest things, things that really determine how high you give a score. You go from like a 6 to an 8.5 or a 9. That's insane. You know what I'm saying?
I would take off points for that. I feel like that's important.
Like, who thought of this?
Yeah, like
That's
What do you mean I gotta hold down the right bumper for 10 seconds?
it's just a crazy situation. I don't know what to do with the media, man. It's just funny. The way things are reviewed, the way people approach things, and the things that they say, and then us as fans, even if we want to sit up here and say, "Oh, that's not a biased review," and we always get this. You have the PlayStation guys say that that this game for Xbox was not a biased review. It was his opinion. It made sense, and then the vice versa. If a PlayStation game gets a low score, it wasn't a biased review. But the reality of it is, as the actual gamer, you're looking at the score, and you're absolutely going to feel as biased because everything that you felt that was great about the game does not appeal to this person. But then you also have to think about, who has, whose pockets, like whose hand is in whose pockets in the industry. You got some really big companies out there that's very influential, like IGN and GameSpot and Polygon and Joystick and everybody else that's out there that are really the big dudes and stuff like that. And, those marketing dollars and those hits and that market share, it determines a lot. It really does. So I don't know exactly how it's played. I don't want to say anybody's doing anything or blaming anybody for being biased, but I'm just saying, if you look at Street Fighter and you look at some of the other games that come out, and then you have some games that's broken, it's just weird. Even Master Chief Collection early on, it was broken on the multiplayer. The campaign worked perfectly for me. For some people it didn't, but
Look at that joint was broke everywhere.
Yeah, it was broke everywhere.
I didn't have a problem with them. I didn't have a problem with the campaign for some reason.
Single player. That's when I quit. I'm like, nope.
You were rubber banding in single player?
Yeah, that single player was horrible, man.
Wow.
I made a video about it. I was like, this is dumb.
That's crazy. I didn't have a problem with single player. So me and my homeboy, we went through the entire campaign with no issue. Maybe I was lucky. All right, so
you stop. I demanded a refund.
Yeah, but just hitting on the last thing about review, like that's why I keep on trying to, but like people that like really take, when they go to these reviews and like they see what these people have to say, that's why I keep on trying to tell people, like, you can't take these reviews as like gospel. At the end of the day, like, a review is nothing but someone's opinion, and it's going to be different from yours. You're not going to agree with everything they had to say about the game. Like what Ryan said about Firewatch and how good that was, like, I think that was like the only review I seen to where he literally didn't say anything bad about the game, but then all these other reviews were like completely different. So it's like you gotta like find just who you really can relate to when it comes to these reviews, because it's like you really got to be careful, because you might end up getting a game that got a good score here, but then you play it and it might be like, yo, this junk is trash to me. But that's just the way it is.
It's funny because the problem with when you have biased reviews, you might have someone who has a smaller site, but they're connected to like Metacritic, and they intentionally give a game a terrible score. I remember, what game was it? I can't remember what game it was. I just remember a game getting like 9s across the board. I think it was Ori and the Blind Forest, and somebody gave it like a 5, or a 4, and it literally dropped the score. Because those low scores are critical. Like, they're really terrible on the average. So it's like it really dropped the game from a 90 overall. And the thing is that an opinion doesn't matter to the hardcore gamer, but to the casual gamer, when they see these review scores and things like that, if they pick up a magazine that's trying to keep them informed, or their friends tell them something, those scores really mean a lot to the casual gamer who want to purchase those games. Oh, this game got a 70, I don't want to get it. It's got a 50, I'm not gonna waste my money on it. That's $60. I could put it towards something else that's got a 90. So it's tough, man. It can be a really slippery slope in a way.
I think an important thing to remember, though, when you're talking about reviews, though, is that like, there's no such thing as an unbiased review. We always go in with an idea of like, I prefer this over this, or I'm looking for this, and not necessarily that. And so there's a difference between like a personal bias from something and then an unethical bias from something. And I think with some of these sites, like, just being careful not to blame them and say like, you're being unethical about this for some sort of outside force, because when I hear these guys talk about playing these games and reviewing these games, like when they go on podcasts and stuff, it really does come from like a legitimate, I sat down with this game and this is what I walked away from it with, and not necessarily I walked in thinking like, here's the direction I'm going to take this thing.
Right.
Yeah, Corey brings up a perfect example in the chat. He mentioned Dying Light is like a perfect example of this. Like, the reviews that you had out there for Dying Light compared to how the gamers actually like embrace that game and really like it is completely different. So
right.
Like,
I think that was also partially because the Dying Light didn't give out review copies until the same day as gamers. That it was a little spite, like, you didn't give us the special treatment.
Yeah.
It was definitely detached. Like, reviewers, pretty much 6, 7s. Any gamer will tell you this game is a hot, like, 8.5. Every game. I never saw any like one gamer said the game was like mediocre or anything like that.
A lot of us said it was game of the year.
It was like 3rd place for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to play it. I don't play horror games. You know what's funny? I don't play. Horror games. It's not really a horror game, but for some apparent reason, when I play anything where I'm alone and I have to deal with like creatures that's hunting me down, I just panic.
This man is co-op.
Like, I know. That's why I played Dead Rising 3.
No, but I used to be the same way. Like, I could not play Resident Evil back in the day. I was terrified, but now it's like, You know.
There are some some dumb things we can agree that, in review scores that they complain about, like when IGN complained about too much A button in Gears of War. I'm
Gears
like,
of
huh?
War. Yeah, that
I'm
was
like, what?
pretty brutal.
Too much A button. I was like, is it a troll?
Too much water, too much A.
Too much water, too much A. I was like, nah, you're doing this on purpose now.
It doesn't make. I don't understand about that review was that they improved on that game in every aspect graphically. They put new assets in and everything, and yet the game got a lower score than the original. It just kind of dumbfounded me on that one.
Yo, I still can't get over too much A button. That was hilarious. Like I thought he was trolling. I thought it was a joke.
Especially because you could change up the control scheme. I was like, what? You're gonna complain about something you can change?
It's crazy. It was a crazy situation. So we had a crazy week, man. It's been a crazy week for the Microsoft fan base. I shall say the Xbox fan base. Quantum Break with the PC. Some people lost their minds. Some people didn't. A lot of people know how I feel about exclusives.
Boy, them Xbox fanboys.
I'm just saying.
Called this out a long time ago.
Phil Spencer, are you kidding me?
All I have to say is that Microsoft knows what they're doing. I think a lot of people, even listen. We're not analysts. We don't work for Microsoft. We don't know what their numbers look like. We have no idea. Everyone complains about them not showing how many consoles they sold. Whatever they're doing business-wise, that's what they're doing business-wise. I'm pretty sure that they're not showing whatever they're showing because of us, the consumer. They're definitely showing it because of their board of directors and them getting paid and making money. And anything negative that they may see, they're going to look at as a negative. But if you just show them dollar signs going up, then they're going to they're going to be happy about that. So I think talking about subscriptions and things like that, and changing up what they did was probably smart, because it wasn't like they were selling bad. They were selling better than 360. They just, when you compare it to PlayStation, it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I always tell people that like the Xbox One is doing good. It's just when you compare it with how the PS4 is doing, you might get the impression that it's doing bad, but it's really not.
Right. So they decided they're going to put these games. They're going to put their games on Windows 10, and they're going to share the revenue. And everybody is complaining about, what's going to happen to the Xbox One. And I already had my conversations about how the console could still sell and what they could do. My only complaint with them was about live. And I said this before: the Xbox gamer who pays $60 a year. And I'm not saying you're paying $60 because I don't. I paid $30 for mine. I got mine from CD Keys. I'm pretty sure there's a million ways to find live at a crazy discount. But for the people who go out there and pay live, they're the foundation for Xbox Live. And now you have the PC gamer that can go out and hop on the same network that you're paying for and get on for free, because obviously they have to, because they're not going to pay for it. You have Steam, you have GOG, you have Origin. All those things are free. It's free access. You're not going to pay some type of subscription for it. So Microsoft has no choice but to do this. At the same time, I think that the Xbox console gamer deserves a little bit more incentive in some type of way. And I've had fans hit me up and give me their theories and ideas about how to do these things. But I thought that, at this Win10 event that they got coming up, Microsoft may talk about some stuff. Clearly, I don't think it's going to be a megaton. That's something they would say for E3. But there may be something that they may talk about where they talk about maybe an incentive for live in comparison to Windows 10. So we're going to reflect a little bit on some thoughts on Windows 10 and what we might be able to see at this media event. Now, my understanding is that this event is not televised. It's a media event. I think you can watch it on, oh man, I wish Jez was here. He would know the channel. It's like a Windows channel. It's like the same thing you see online. It's like channel 4 on the Windows.com or something like that. I'm not sure, but if I find a link, I would definitely post it on the Tic Podcast Twitter. And they'll be streaming it, and you'll be able to see what they're going to be showing. And I'm sure a lot of media outlets will also have this stuff running up on websites. But I think what Microsoft may do at this event, obviously besides show, I think Recore they'll show off, because they did say they were going to show Recore earlier this year, especially considering the game comes out later in the year. I say show Recore early and then give us a bigger gameplay.
That wasn't delayed till next year? I could have sworn.
No. Scale down.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was like a 6 year delay, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sub got the he got the exact channel. It's CH9 on I think Microsoft.com. That's what it is. So what they're gonna want, I think they'll show Recore early. I think we'll get a glimpse of that. Probably nothing that's gonna blow us away. Like, oh my God, this amount of gameplay, but we're definitely gonna see something to try to understand what's happening with that game for a Windows 10 Xbox game. And I'm pretty sure that game is DX12 as well. Now, I think they will announce the Gears 4 beta. Now, my understanding was last year the Gears 4 beta was supposed to come out in spring, wasn't it?
Yes, spring 2016. Yes,
Right. So I think at this event they may announce the Gears 4 beta. That might be something they may do. And you know, you've had news recently about this whole thing with this Steam URL. Now, this was brought up last year when they had announced this thing with Steam. But I had somebody bring some things to my attention about Steam and this mail server where the two were connected with this other thing called Cyber Cafe, Steam powered. And I believe this was like allowing Steam to be played in cyber cafes around the world or stuff like that on PCs. Now, my wondering, and this is only my hypothesis, you know, I'm wondering if Microsoft and Steam are working together in some type of way to do PC to Xbox streaming. And I wonder if they would announce that. Is that too big to announce at this event, or should they hold something like that for E3? You know? So that's something that I'm kind of like going back and forth with. But if they did announce it here, it would make absolute sense. It would be the perfect time to do it because it's a Windows 10 Microsoft event. So let's get everybody's thoughts on what's going to happen here at this event, and what do you think Microsoft can do to really, I guess you could say, show solidarity to the console gamers for the Xbox One. Let's start with you, Brandon.
To be totally honest, man, I don't really know what their plans are as far as what they're going to show. I would expect that you'll see a lot of games that'll be on PC and Xbox, but I think it's mostly just going to be a Windows event. I think they'll show off some capabilities with some of the newer cards that'll be coming out for PCs that'll be integrated with DX12 and show off some of the DX12 features.
Mm-hmm.
There's a possibility they could show off something with Steam, but I don't think Gabe Newell is ready to partner up with Microsoft and do that just yet. Announcement like that would probably be something for E3 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I do expect to see like Recore. I would expect to see like Crackdown, maybe even something from like Forza heading over to PC, something like that. I think they'll take some of the established brands that are already out on Xbox and kind of recommit to PC gaming with bringing them over to PC.
Right.
And I know they were testing that like Halo Online like overseas. So maybe maybe they bring that over and there's a Halo Online for PC now.
Bro, if that junk goes to PC.
I don't think Halo 5 will go to PC. I think they got that Halo Online specifically for people who want to play Halo multiplayer. That's why they have that.
I think they, that'll be like the huge announcement. If they announce something like, all the Halo fans, you want to play on PC, we got Halo Online for you. And,
right.
You can play
like
it
as
right
a standalone multiplayer with just Halo stuff. Be crazy.
Yeah. That's really about it, man. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. I think we'll still see some announcements at like GDC and a few other events before E3. But since it's not really a televised event, it's a media event. I don't see them announcing anything too crazy.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. I don't think like they might show like maybe some stuff for like Recore and Forza and possibly like Crackdown 3 and stuff. But like as far as like something like major, I think they're gonna save that, like for the big stuff, like for around E3, and I think most of it is gonna be just like you said, like stuff about PC and just showing off some new stuff they got for that.
Gotcha. Anchor.
Well, I figure since it's a Windows event, I mean, whatever happened to Gears Ultimate Edition? They said that was coming to PC. Haven't seen that go yet.
They might show it. They actually might show it
I
running.
think they'll show it and say give a release date when it's coming officially.
Right.
The other thing I think they'll probably end up doing is I'm always a guy who made bold predictions. I think they're going to make Xbox Live free for all Xbox guys.
No way.
No way in hell they will announce that. I don't think
No way in heck.
they would do it. They wouldn't do it.
No way.
They wouldn't do it. They need to, though.
I'm shocked.
I'm going to say it because...
What did they say the last revenue was off of Halo Live subscriptions?
Listen, first of all, if the reason I don't think they would do that because they're gonna have to refund a lot of people that got it to like the next. I have Xbox Live already registered for the next 3 years, so they're gonna have to refund my ass.
They probably. I think
what they'll end up doing
that though.
No, this is.
Well, see, the thing is, I think what they'll end up doing with the program is they'll rebrand it entirely, where it will be something like Xbox VIP or something where Gold incorporates like all the deals and the free games that comes with the games with Gold. You maybe get like 10% extra what you sell. Basically, being what PlayStation Plus was for the PS3 era, but you make playing online, you make parties are free for everyone who wants to.
I'm gonna tell you right now, though, if they did pull multiplayer, they would probably lose a lot of subs. Like they really would. I just don't think that the games will go to solid, but I don't know if it's worth it. When you look at some of the games they came out with,
That just is trash.
yeah, some of them are okay, but it's not really a big thing. I don't know. Do they have the backwards compatible games behind Live as well? Behind the paywall? Because if they do, that would be terrible as well.
I don't know. I don't think so. But...
No, I don't. Yeah.
You know, okay. So if that's not behind the paywall, then you don't have to worry about your BC games, but then you have those discounts. And be honest with you, there's a lot of times where I would look at something retail-wise, and if retail games would be cheaper than the digital games. I still don't get that. I think Microsoft should do something in tiers. You know, maybe they have a free subscription where the multiplayer is free, but if you do give the multiplayer free, you got to give us one hell of an incentive to kick out $60 for the year to continue with Live. I mean, we all love Live. We all think that Live is the best service when it comes to console gaming, especially dedicated. You play games like Halo, you play games like Forza, you understand that. But at the same time, all the other incentives really aren't that special. They try to make it special, but they really aren't that special. Luke, what's your thoughts?
I think in this event, what they're going to try to do with Xbox is try to prove that it's a valuable peripheral for people who are running Windows 10 on other devices, like on their PCs, on their Surface tablets, on the unfortunate few that own Windows phones. I think one of the things that we're going to see are the universal apps finally make their way over to the Xbox One.
Mm-hmm.
That way they'll show like, hey, you're watching this thing over on your Surface, you can send that over to your Xbox One. And so within that, I think we are probably going to get to see that PC to Xbox One streaming, because that's more valuable to a PC, to a Windows 10 owner than it would be just to an Xbox owner who would be watching over at E3. So I also think they're going to announce probably that all of the Xbox-owned IP that's coming in the future is going to be Windows 10 and Xbox One.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Just because you want to take the conversation and the guesswork out of it and just kind of get it all behind you, because that's the direction they're moving in anyway. So rather than like getting there with a death by 1,000 pricks, they can just rip the Band-Aid off at the beginning, get the backlash right there from the start, and then kind of just get it behind them to the point where, because I think we all understand that if we can get these games over onto Windows 10, it's ultimately healthier for Microsoft as a business anyway, because they're making money off of it regardless of the platform that you're buying it on. And so within that announcement, I think they're going to say, all of these IPs are going to be coming, your Scalebounds and your Recores and those sorts of things. But to kick it off, we're bringing Gears Ultimate and Master Chief Collection to Windows 10 as well. Kind of give like a backlog of Xbox stuff to PC gamers for Windows 10 users to go back into play.
You
And
know,
I also think we'll see some 360 backwards compatibility coming to Windows 10 as well.
oh
That'd be
gosh,
crazy.
that would be crazy. PC gamers would lose their minds over that, I think.
Well, again, it's just about like establishing that value with Xbox within the Windows 10 ecosystem. And I think another thing that they may do, I don't know if this would get announced at an event like this or maybe later on, like they're trying to get this Windows Store off the ground.
They really are.
And
Yeah.
I think a good way to do that would be to say, like, look, we understand that digital manufacturing is cheaper than physical manufacturing, so all of the Xbox One IP that we're selling on the Windows Store is going to be 10% off, the physical releases.
They do that, the Xbox console fans will lose it. I would lose it.
Well, but understanding that these things will be cross-buy.
I don't care.
but I think with the Universal apps, we're going to see a melding of the Windows Store along with the Xbox Store. So buying Quantum Break on the Windows Store is buying it for
Let me
Xbox.
tell you something. Here's the problem with the console gamer right now. As a console gamer, right, we don't care what Microsoft was trying to do for the PC gamer. Like, it's no disrespect to the PC gamer, but console gamers don't really care. What we care about is what we're paying for and how it's affecting us, right? So if you're going to turn around and tell me that they're going to sell Quantum Break for, let's say, $50, but on console it's $60?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they're going to merge the Windows Store and the Xbox Store into one unit so that when you go to buy Quantum Break on your Xbox, you're actually buying it from the Windows Store for the 10% off that you'd be buying.
Okay. All right.
Again, because all these things are going to be cross-buy anyway. Like, and here's the big thing is like this was the direction Xbox was always going to go.
Right. I agree with
when
that.
everybody lost their mind back at the reveal event for the Xbox One, it was in preparation for where we're going now, and now we've just gotten there on a much slower route.
I thought the same thing. I said when you look at the original Xbox One's plan, this thing was going to be a digital console. They were looking at a digital future with DRM and working out some type of way to probably eventually merge with PC. And it made sense because PC is really focused around digital. And if Microsoft can figure out a way to where, because a lot of people don't want to act like these consoles are similar to PCs. Don't get me wrong, they're not PCs, but they're very close. They're very close in architecture. If you're going to merge with PC, if Microsoft turns around and give console gamers PC benefits like deals from the PC and some of the games are way cheaper, that would be one big advantage over every single competitor that they have. Not only that, if they figure out a way to do something with live and tear these things up, if they remove multiplayer, that's another advantage they would have. I mean, they probably wouldn't do it, but I'm just saying it would be another advantage for them to have it. And if they could figure out a way to stream PC to Xbox, and here's what's crazy, and the reason why I say Steam and not PC, because most console gamers don't have the PC to run PC games. But Steam has an abundance of smaller titles. They have an abundance of indie games that just don't come to consoles. There's an abundance of old school games that they release on there that you can pick up. And there's also games that are on there first before they come to the Xbox One. So if they can figure out a way to allow you to do a cross-buy with Steam, pick up a game on Steam and then goes to the Xbox One, if you can figure out a way to do achievements and lock those things in, that's another advantage they may have. Now, I don't know if they will announce that. That's just a theory in practice. But I think that if they did, that would easily convince anybody who's going to buy an Xbox One to get an Xbox One, regardless if the games are going to Windows 10 PC or not.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for one of these damn companies to realize that digital is not as costly as physical, so there's no reason you should be selling me a digital game for the same price as a physical game.
It makes no sense.
I'm just waiting, for you to give me at least $15 off or something automatically.
One of the things brought up in the chat by Dramacidal, and this has been the argument all along, is that if you undercut those prices of the physical, you start to hurt your retailers, and you depend on those physical brick and mortar stores to sell your hardware, because you can't download an Xbox One, you can't download a controller or a headset or anything like that. But the thing is that retailers have understood the reality that this is the future, and that's why when you walk into a GameStop or something like that, a third of the store now is covered in collectible merchandise and not games, because they understand, like, we're not going to be making our money off of discs from here on out. We're going to be making it off of this physical collectible merchandise that we're selling. And we're getting to the point where people are more and more comfortable with, well, if I need a controller, I'll order it off of Amazon and get it shipped right to my door.
I haven't been to GameStop in forever.
Yeah, we're just getting to that day where, like, the brick and mortar retailer isn't going to matter as much on that software front, and it shouldn't. Like, software, we're in an age now where software is so available to be downloaded, and then when they can finally cut those ties, that's when we're going to start to see that discount. And I think this is the perfect time to start it.
Yeah, but I mean, I like both, but I would always prefer to buy the physical copy. I'm just that guy to where I like to have that collection, and it's the same way for movies, games, whatever. Like if I could buy a game from home, that's cool. And sometimes, you know, if I don't feel like leaving, I might do that. But for the majority of the time, like, I always like to just actually have it in my hands. So I just don't think I just hope it won't, like, completely go away in, like, the near future.
Oh yeah, I think that market's always going to be there, but I do think we are going to see it move to kind of that niche role where. And it's really only going to take one publisher making the decision of, like if Ubisoft was to say, hey, we're going to release all digital and we're going to ship 100,000 like special edition physical copies for people who are like you and like to collect and have something on their shelf to look at. But it's going to be that more kind of niche role.
Yeah,
it's definitely going to be crazy. The future is definitely going to be crazy. I mean, everybody's making this transition. Before we go to the next topic, I just want to get Gamber's opinion on what he thinks Microsoft may do at this event.
I already said my piece with the.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I missed it. My bad. All right, cool. So, you know, keeping with the theme of what's happening, you have these digital games coming out, and obviously as consumers, we all want these things.
And that wait, and that's another thing. Like, do you? I mean, because since we're like moving in like this different direction, do you guys like see like in the near future to where like if you want to actually like get rid of a game and you don't actually have a physical copy of it, like there's some type of trade-in system to where you could somehow get money from like a game that you don't want no more that's actually on your console?
I said this on BG show on Weapon Wheel. Everybody called me stupid.
I don't think it's gonna ever happen.
Like,
if they do that, then I think
I think it's digital. I think it's a long time, but I think it'll happen. Before that happens, what needs to happen is, I think when you buy a digital game on these consoles, is it non-refundable? Because I don't do it.
Yeah, you can't refund it.
Oh, that's garbage. See, that's the first thing before any trading thing comes in. You need a refund.
You can refund it if you give them an excuse. My boy had purchased, I remember he had bought Forza 6, and then he decided that he wanted to return it to get Metal Gear Solid 5. So they let him return it, and they gave him the credit, and then he picked up Metal Gear. You know, he said it was an accident or something like that. I mean, if you give them an excuse, they'll give it to you, but outright, like, hey, I don't want this game, I don't know. Yeah, and I think you can't have it for a certain period of time.
It's just not a fluid, they don't have a process for it.
Process to go through.
Yeah.
It's not a no questions asked refund policy.
Yeah, that's what we need. Not even if it's, we got to start out with something. Even if it's not a no questions asked, we need a damn form like, oh, I want to return this game. Why?
See, here's the problem.
Select other or something. You know, we need to know.
The problem with that is that they don't know how much of the game you played. I think if you bought the game, if you pre-ordered the game and you wanted to return it, that's fine. But it's like you bought the game. Let's say you bought a game and you beat the game in a day and a half, and you're like, you know what, I bought this game, I didn't want the guy, I want to return it. How do they determine?
What does Steam do again? What does Steam do?
Does 2 weeks, 2 hours, I think. Like,
it's
you have to play 2 hours.
Yeah. So, with the only problem with that is with some games, you know, some games are short, so it's like for the short games, you got to make an exception or something. But yeah, they got to work on a refund system before they start to even thinking about any type of trade-in system.
Go ahead.
There's a whole lot of questions about ownership within this thing, and it's just the argument in digital all along. Like, you don't really own your iTunes library. You know, the music you have in your iTunes is licensed to you, and just the same way, like, the games that you have are licensed to you. But within that, there's also, and this was Xbox's original plan, and it's just so funny how, like, we're slowly migrating into it, and people are becoming more and more okay with it. But the idea is that a license can always be transferred, just like ownership can be transferred. And so, there is that possibility of me being able to say, I'm done with this game, but I've got this friend who I will now transfer that license to, and being able to do those sorts of things. And but just that whole idea of ownership, and just like, okay, what happens when ultimately Xbox either doesn't exist anymore or gets sold off, and now I have nothing left to show for the money that I spent there because servers are shut down and I have no access to the profile that these games are licensed to. And those are some of the questions a lot of people have when it comes to this all-digital switch that need to be answered.
The first company to figure it out, though.
I said that. The first company to figure out how to do digital trade-ins wins, because everybody's going to flock to that system to buy games and trade them in. The problem is, what do you give value-wise for a digital system? I mean, digital trade-ins. It's not going to be high. First of all, you can't give the type of money that GameStop gives out. Like, if you get a game and you beat it in a certain amount of time, you can't trade in a game and expect to get $30 for it. I think what they should do is they should give you a time period on the license. If you beat the game within a week, they give you, $25. Every time you go past a certain time, the value of that drops and drops and drops until you only can get $5 for the game. You know what I'm saying? And that would probably put pressure on people to beat the games faster. But then you have some people that just really don't care and they want to keep the game in their library. But there has to be some type of way to regulate these digital trade-ins, because there's a ton of games that we all play and we beat that are single player that we'll never play again. And we'll never pick up again. You will say we have the game, but we won't pick it up.
I think the only way to kind of make it work is if you get 25% back of what you pay for the game.
I think so too. I think if you did that within the first month, if you beat the game within the first month, you get 25% back of what you paid. That might work. Even if it's a little bit, it's bigger than it's more. It's pretty much more than anything anybody else is giving you, which is nothing. Not even Steam is doing that.
Yeah, I think we have to remember that like, the whole reason that we're moving to this digital arena is because the trade-in market completely decimated the gaming industry for a while before they realized, like, the season passes and DLC stuff was the way to kind of recoup some of that money they were losing off of these resales.
Yeah.
And so I don't really see, like, a digital solution that says let's trade it in until it's just like, I mean, think about all the games that have been released in the last year on both PlayStation 4 and Xbox. I mean, you can throw Steam in there too, and like the majority of those games have 0 physical releases to them. And like, we're just every year, I think it's going to become less and less of a percentage of physically released games, and to the point where it's like, well, the only way you can get this thing digitally, and so you can't trade that in and recoup any money, and you're just going to have to deal with it because it's reality.
I wonder if they can figure out a way, maybe you can trade to your friends at a cheaper price. Like you said earlier, like if, for example, somebody hit me up and like, hey, you done with that game? I'm like, yeah, I'll trade it to that person. Or maybe you can trade games and swap. If that person buys a game and you buy a game, you guys could swap licenses and actually own the license once it's traded, like a trade for a trade. I mean, because again, all this is going right back into games anyway, mostly. It's not like you're going to turn around or use the money you got to go to Groove and buy music. You know what I'm saying? Or pick up a few movies to watch. That's not going to happen. So, if you can do trade for trade, game for game with friends on your friends list, maybe you can have a marketplace for the gamers. Everybody has a list of games that they're trading, and you can go ahead and, not bid, but you can say, hey, I'll trade you this game for this game, and if the value is right, it might work.
I don't know. Like Leap Trade.
I mean, hey. It would be better than not doing anything at all. You know what I'm saying? I think that might hurt the developer though in the end, because people who want to buy new games, they may not. They may wait.
They'll just hit the market every time, man.
Yeah, so they'll be losing the money.
It's tough. That's a tough situation. Well, we have obviously Microsoft going into this digital age. You got the Nintendo NX coming out soon, which I believe is supposed to be some type of console handheld hybrid. It's like Nintendo don't know what to do with their consoles. I really believe that at this point.
I need to see the blueprint of what this junk is going to be.
I
Before I see anything else,
really-
I need to see a blueprint.
Like this thing is crazy. It's like you have a handheld, and I mean this is just like the early schematics on it. It's like you have a handheld. It has you have like a controller in your hand that's a handheld, and it has a screen in it, and then you can take that, plug it into the system, and then it's like playing whatever you had in the handheld. I don't even know how it works. I really don't. But it looks crazy, and the rumors are that they run games at 900p. Like most of their games at 900p, like they don't have a very powerful GPU. I don't know what Nintendo's doing. I was really hoping they would come out with a powerful console that would be more powerful than both PlayStation and the Xbox One, and would be able to compete this generation. But I don't know. I really don't know. But supposedly,
I don't even think they care about competing with something.
They in their own lane, man. They do
That's
their
the
own thing.
problem.
I truly don't think they care anymore.
See,
they
they
probably don't.
they keep saying they don't care about competing with Sony and Microsoft, but that's like saying you don't want to have money. That's kind of what you're saying. Competing is not competing for money. Like it worked for y'all once technically with the Wii, that you stayed in your own lane and you were able to get all of the market share. It's not working. That's not working no more. You gotta compete.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you look at the way they come out with consoles back to back, because one console doesn't work. If the next console doesn't work, do they continue to do that? Or do they just give up on the console market and go into handhelds because that's where they mainly are doing their thing.
See, Nintendo has absolutely nothing to lose at this point, though, because from a hardware perspective, like there is no money in the hardware. Xbox is making only a couple dollars off of the sale of every Xbox console. The money's made in the software, and so if Nintendo's hardware department on this NX goes belly up on it, it's like this is going to be their last venture into it. And I think they understand that. All right, well, if that happens, all we have to do is turn around and go to a Microsoft or to a Sony and say, how much money will you give us to put our games on your platform exclusively? And Microsoft, anyone who has any bit of intelligence would back up a truckload of money to it and say, yeah, because it would be a game changer for any company that could get Mario and Zelda and Smash Brothers and all of those big franchises that are locked away on this little Wii U that 10 million people own.
Microsoft might be the only company I know who would shovel out half of their conglomerate to get Nintendo.
I mean, they backed up a truckload of money to Respawn for Titanfall, for a game that didn't go they weren't sure where it was going to go, and so absolutely they'd back it up to these established people.
Yeah, they would definitely do that. But with Nintendo, with the NX, they're supposed to be putting their games on PC and tablet as well. There's a few games that I heard that they're coming out. Nintendo's trying to broach this market for digital as well. That you have Sony with PS Now, and PS Now to me as an app is really good if they're able to get that on PC. But I think the thing is they have to be able to get PlayStation 4 games on there for it to be really kick off. And I think at some point that's something that they'll do. I just see the next generation of consoles going into this digital market head on. Not in a way where it's like if they come out with the next set of consoles, they'll be discless, but there's just going to be an abundance of digital and games that you can buy anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is, I want to get everyone's opinions on how do you think each company will approach next generation with their next console. So let's start with Luke.
I think by the next couple of years we're going to see Xbox come out with a discless console. And I say that because of their kind of chips all in with the Windows Store and Windows 10 integration and all that. And it's something that would resonate with people who are maybe more used to that kind of console experience but want it on their television. For people who are more comfortable buying digitally, and I do think it's ultimately going to be the future of it, because with a Blu-ray disc, you're ultimately limited to, I think, 60 gigabytes or whatever can fit on it, and then like you've got to download the rest. Like that's what happened with Master Chief Collection.
Mm-hmm.
So like let's get people comfortable with the idea of digital. This is kind of that transition phase of hey, 75% of the games I own are digital because it's the only way I can own them. And now here comes this console where 100% of it's going to be digital. And I mean, some stuff's got to happen between now and then, like in terms of data caps and internet speeds around the country and stuff like that. But if that stuff starts to trend more towards a favorable digital-only kind of world, then I think that's what we're going to see. And with the NX, I think we're absolutely going to see that kind of digital. I mean, that kind of handheld, that handheld and console kind of hybrid. But I think it's going to have some sort of disc-based software around it, just because of the market for Nintendo products and kind of that family style of it, where you have people that are buying it that may not totally understand what it means to purchase things digitally. But I don't really see like the whole cloud kind of in the like streaming services like PlayStation Now really taking off, because it does require very quick internet and it does eat up a lot of data.
Yeah, I think he makes a good point, but I think we can kind of see that now that most of these consoles are going to go digital. If you look at PS3 and the 360 era, we got some games that were games on demand and were digital, but just about every game now released is digital on Xbox One or PS4. So I think the next consoles will definitely see more of that and probably less physical games. I do think that Nintendo will probably take another seat, this generation. With the NX, I don't think it's going to be what everybody's hoping it's going to be. I think they'll definitely promote, their big franchises, and it seems like they have Square Enix, under wraps as far as putting some games on that console. But we haven't heard really any rumblings from anyone else saying that that they're going to put a game out on NX. So. Only time will tell with that, but I think the next PlayStation console, Xbox console will focus mostly on digital. I think a lot of stuff will be stored in the cloud. I think cloud storage will be big for the next consoles, and that we probably won't worry about too many hard drive issues as well.
Thank God. Yeah, I pretty much agree. Like, I think we're headed in that direction. Pretty much how. I mean, it's funny how, like when the Xbox One, how that first was, and how we made like a big fit about it.
Yeah.
Now we're headed in that direction. I think it was more so the presentation of how they went about like telling us like this is how it's going to be. But yeah, I think Xbox and PlayStation are headed in that direction. As far as Nintendo, I truly don't really know what exactly they're trying to do. With all the money they're making on amiibos, I know that will be somehow put in there. But yeah, I definitely think we're headed in that direction. So it's just gonna be more out there next gen. So
yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
I don't know if I'm just not sure if we're gonna. I know they're gonna make more of an emphasis on digital. I don't know if we're gonna go to an to a discless console yet. Probably because I don't want them to yet. But I'm just not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people who still purchase physical. I mean, clearly, you look at these MPD numbers,
and that's the thing. And you have to think about this too. Like, if it's a discless console, like all of these like collector's editions and everything else, that junk means nothing anymore. Like,
they don't mean nothing now.
Well, some people still buy them though.
Well, people buy them. Games. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know what you're saying. People buy them, but I mean, you can ship them to the people's house. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Hey, you about to get digital, ship it to my crib. I ain't got to go in there. Well, I got to stand on line next to some funky dude, dog.
There ain't no more midnight releases. Like no more midnight releases. Nothing.
is going to
And
be
then
a
at
real
least
limited
that
edition.
is.
It might become to the point where like, okay, yeah, we'll print you a disc. You can't use it. It's just gonna be like you know, like
Yeah.
That would be the collector's item.
yeah,
I hope it don't get to that point.
it's gonna be like a vinyl disc. You know, like hey, just for collection, put it up on your wall. It's like how a lot of music artists right now, like they sell their physical disc, but people don't really use their physical disc. It's really only for collecting, and people just keep the disc for collection, and they just listen to everything on iTunes.
Right.
So
Unless you in the car, that's when I listen to CDs.
I mean, I don't know, man. I think the digital is the way to go. It's cheaper, it's faster. Ever since digital come out, I haven't purchased a physical game. If I purchase any physical games, it would be sports titles.
What's the last game you bought that was physical?
Madden 15.
Lord have mercy.
I don't. See, I'm the opposite. I don't buy. The only thing I buy digital, well, as far as consoles go, because on PC, obviously, I buy everything digital. But as far as consoles go, the only games I buy that are digital are the ones that only ones that I have no choice. They're digital only, like some of the indie games. That's it. Everything else, I refuse to buy digital. I just don't like buying.
That's a lie. You get AAAs. The AAA games you get.
I mean,
No, I'm saying I don't like buying those digital.
There was some, here's my thing. I look at it like this. When I first started, I said, okay, I'm going to go out, and I was only going to buy digital games that were either co-op, multiplayer, or MMO only, because I knew that I wouldn't be trading those games in because they had long-term value. Single players, sports titles, I would pick those up physically and then trade them in. Once all these games start coming in, and I didn't have to get in my car and drive anywhere, I just stopped doing that completely and just start buying games. The only games I don't buy are sports games. I just don't buy sports games physically because they come out every single year, and I won't play the last iteration. It's pointless.
No, that's still not okay for me, especially the way these AAA games be turning out. Like they just don't be living up to it. So a lot of these games, I can't say a lot of them. I keep, like, the games, even the ones I don't play anymore, I keep them if they're good. The ones that fell below my expectation, I trade those in. So, and it's been some unexpected games where that I thought, okay, this is a game I'm going to keep forever. This is going to be my game of the year, that you can't tell anymore. Like before like Metal Gear Solid 5, I traded that shit in. Dude, if you told me before that game came out that I was going to trade that in, I would have told you you're crazy. There's no fucking way I would trade this game in. You're nuts. But after playing it after 40 hours, and I put I got to 80 hours. But after them 80 hours, I'm like, yeah, this joint going to the store. It's over. So that's why I can't do that. That's why I can't do that.
That's funny.
Physical all the time with these, AAA games. So.
Yo, you know what's crazy? Remember back in the day, you go to GameStop, they be like, hey, you got a scratch on this. They got to reduce the trade-in value, little things like that. It's like, I think about those things, and, last year, I think digital games made like $61 billion last year. Like, digital's on the rise, man. And I think physical, who wants to walk around and carry stuff nowadays? I remember there was this big argument. The thing that killed me about when the Xbox first got announced was everybody was talking about, well, what if I want to go to my friend's house? I want to head out if he wants to borrow the game. It's like, what are you, in the 6th grade? You know what I'm saying?
Does that?
Like, that's what I'm saying. We're grown people. Like, nobody's really doing that like that no more. Everybody has Xbox Live. Like, it's just crazy. And I think that when Microsoft was trying to introduce the whole family share thing, Sony has the game sharing, where you can invite somebody to your game and play. Do people still use that? Because I don't really hear anything about that nowadays.
No.
Some people use it, but
some people use it.
I just never like. I think that it's better for kids. I feel like an adult really doesn't have a reason to use that, really.
That's what I'm saying. Like if Microsoft, like right now, the illegal way to share games on Xbox is to swap home consoles. Now, Microsoft, obviously, that's not what you're supposed to do, but Microsoft doesn't complain about that because the whole purpose is that if you go to your friend's house and you upload your account to his Xbox, all of your licenses and well, not all of the digital games, but all of your licenses appear on his Xbox, and you can download your entire library to his Xbox if you go to his house. Now, the only difference is that if you download your account to your friend's Xbox, and you make your account his home, and you take your Xbox and make his account your home, you just swap digital licenses and you share licenses. Yeah. So one person buys a game and both of y'all have the same game. Now my whole thing
is convinced me to go all digital.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I went all digital. Because I was like, me and my homeboy, my library is insane. And all we do is I buy a game. If I pick up, like right now he's picking up Far Cry, and I'm going to pick up Quantum Break, we both get the game. I pick up The Division, he picks up Mass Effect, we both get the game. Like, the only way it doesn't work is when you're using EA Access. EA Access, it doesn't work that way. But every other digital game, it works perfectly fine. And I think that's why I think those digital games sell so well on Xbox, because I know a lot of people that are doing that. And I think if Microsoft figured out a way where it was like, if they can do the whole family thing where they was like, you got 5 people in your circle, and those 5 people have access to your library, but only one of them can play at a time. But maybe you put them on a timer. Like, they have 5 hours to play your library for the week or for the day. That would be interesting. That would be dope. And that'd be something that would be a cool feature. And that was something they spoke about when they first announced it, but then they scrapped it. You know, they scrapped the idea when everybody was losing their minds over the whole digital thing. And what's crazy about that is that the people who were losing their minds still didn't buy the Xbox. They still didn't buy it, so it's like it was no point anyway.
Let's talk about EA Access for a minute, because we're talking about, you know, just the future of how like games are distributed, and I could see a future of one of two things, where either A, you can pay like a subscription fee to a specific publisher, where you pay, you know, $25 a month, and you can play any Ubisoft game. You can download any Ubisoft game and play it as long as you're paying that $25 a month, even new releases of those games. Or a future where it's like, I don't know, maybe like even a cable subscription where sort of like pricing model where you just pay and it's like Spotify, where you can just you pay this monthly subscription and you can download anything and play it.
Yeah.
Like EA Access is such an interesting model with the vault, especially of just like, just pay us a flat rate and here's a whole cluster of games that you have access to through it. And I think it's something we will see more of in the future. Maybe not to the ultimate extreme of paying a subscription and playing anything, but I think we'll see more and more publishers go in that direction.
Yeah, I think Ubisoft is on the verge of putting this on Xbox. With that Ubi Play, I would not be surprised eventually if they do that. With all their broken ass games, I could see it. No pun intended. But I can see it happening. You know what I'm saying? They're next to do it. You already have EA up there. Man, it's just crazy. It's gonna be a crazy generation. PlayStation with PlayStation Now, you know, with their streaming service that they have, I don't want to talk on it because I don't have a PlayStation yet. I'm still trying to figure out if I want to get a PS4. I'm waiting for Nintendo to unveil their console before I make a decision on if I want to get a PS4, because I really want to play Horizon. But if Nintendo comes out with some stuff that I'm really interested in, I might pick up the NX if it looks good and their controller's not stupid. If they can give me a regular controller, I might pick it up.
You know they ain't gonna show you no game you want to see, really.
Nintendo, I mean, Nintendo got some games. I'm a big Mario Kart fan. I really am. And Mario Party. Did they even come up with Mario Party this generation?
Here's the thing.
Bowser. It was all about Bowser.
Oh, it's terrible.
You're talking about waiting to see games on the NX that you would really want to play. There's Nintendo fans still waiting for games to come out on the Wii U. When do you think you're gonna get a game you want to play on the NX? If
Nintendo does take a long time. I tell you what, though, if they make Metroid a release title, that thing will sell.
Bruh.
Like a real Metroid.
They're doing that Metroid Prime Blast Ball. That's all you gonna get.
Nah, I think what they're gonna do to get the NX going is they'll release a Pokemon game for console, and that'll be the big thing for NX.
I think Microsoft and Nintendo should team up for Pokemon HoloLens. I don't care what nobody say.
Yo,
that is the most ultimate joint ever, son.
I swear to God, I get into that junk. I don't care how old I am.
You look down and you see, yo, that's serious. You look down and you see Pikachu on the floor, you will lose your mind, son. You look over across from you, there's like a Charizard or a real Onix, like all the way up to the ceiling. Yo, people would go bananas for it.
I would be the first black Pokemon master.
Like that would be.
That's all they gotta say. That's all they gotta say. It's like, all right, Microsoft's partnered with HoloLens and Nintendo
for Pokemon HoloLens. No, you could sell that joint for $500. Everybody would buy it.
Dude, that alone would sell VR and AR like immediately. People would lose.
People would go crazy for it. I would buy it.
So could you imagine like that for Yu-Gi-Oh as well?
That's what I'm saying. That's the perfect thing. I went to
Holeless trap card.
When I went to PAX East, they had the whole Yu-Gi-Oh tournament and all these like card tournaments going out. And they really had cards. Imagine just having these cards. They all synced up with the HoloLens. And you just put that joint down, and the actual creatures pop out, or the actual build up here. Yo,
people be losing it.
They be losing it. Everybody be like they on a drug, like they're really looking at something. Everybody's looking at them like they don't see nothing but a wooden table and some cards. But in those glasses, there's an entire world happening right in front of them. Like
that jump would be.
Grown men be walking around talking about Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh.
Seriously, grown men, 40, 45-year-old men. Seriously, I would definitely do that. I'd be like, what? That would be crazy. But that thing gotta work, man. Like it's a little suspect with the what is it called? The range, the eyes range, I guess, because you can see on the peripheral and stuff like that. It's limited to how much it can see, unlike VR that covers your whole entire, peripheral vision and stuff like that. I don't know. But if they could figure out a way to do that with HoloLens, it would be crazy. I watched that HoloLens commercial for the NFL. Did you guys see that commercial for the NFL? Bro, listen to this. This was crazy. The girl had the HoloLens joint on her head. She looked at the TV screen. The whole screen blew up over her wall. Like you can see the crowd, the field, everything. Dude looks to the right and he like points to the wall. Russell Wilson busts out the wall with all his stats in front of him. They looked at the table. It put a stadium in the table like a bowl, and you could look down and see the people playing on the table in real life. Like they were really playing, and you were looking at a top-down view of the game while the joint was on your table. The whole stadium. And I'm sitting up there saying, like, if they made this real, do they understand what type of gold mine they have on their hands?
Bro, stuff like that and like VR porn would make this junk.
No, he's right though. Porn is a big industry. Yo, so I'm telling you right now, the first AR VR device that gets porn right.
I'm telling you, bro, that's money.
Go crazy.
That's money, bro. Whether you want to admit it or not.
Yo, isn't porn the reason why Blu-ray took off? I'm so serious. Yo, that's serious. This is what I remember during the 360 PS3 world when they had HD DVD versus Blu-ray. The porn industry went with Blu-ray because they could fit more porn videos on a Blu-ray disc than they could the HD DVD. And they went with Blu-ray. And the porn industry is so big, that's what tipped the scales for Blu-ray.
Yeah, like the porn industry is huge.
Yo, it's crazy, son. This is not a family-friendly show, clearly. But definitely very, very interesting topics, man. Definitely interesting topics. I think PlayStation Now, man, if they put PS4 games on there and they just put that thing on PC, they might got something special. I think they have something. I really do.
I think the only struggle with putting the PS4 games on there now is that people wouldn't buy games anymore. They just pay for the subscription.
I don't know. It depends on if your service is good enough to stream the game.
Yeah.
I mean, you still gotta have to, like in those little small countries that don't have internet, or the internet is so bad they gotta go to an internet cafe. I think you still gotta have those consoles for those. But like first world countries, United States, UK, things like that, Japan, you don't really have to worry about internet. That's not a big issue for us. So streaming shouldn't be that big of a deal. I know in some places like Middle America, they have issues where they don't have proper internet or their services aren't as good. But usually the coastline, the East Coast, the West Coast, most major cities, they don't have a problem with internet at all. So I mean, streaming would be big for Sony, but Sony to me is very, locked into their console. They're not trying to they're trying to keep everything exclusive forever. That's how I feel. I think with PS Now they can make a ton of money in software though. But I just think exclusively they're just looking at they got the sales lead, they got the market share. They ain't thinking about doing anything else. At least in my opinion, I don't think they're thinking about doing anything else.
Sony chilling.
Yeah, they're just chilling. They're just really laid back right now. Microsoft is trying to figure out ways to expand their brand and keep making bread, and I don't know. The console sales I think for them aren't as big because, like Luke said earlier, it's all about software sales. So maybe they outweigh the console sales. If you make like $24, or not even now, probably like $23 or $15 on a console, and you make a full $55, $51 on a game sale, then I mean it's clearly you're going to sell 1 million copies in a game. I think Halo 5 is at like 3.5 million right now. Physical. That's not even counting digital. So clearly they made bank on that game. Even though people try to downplay it, they still made bank on that game. So it's just crazy, man. It'd be a crazy situation. Yeah, man. So I just want to thank everybody for coming on the show and everything like that. I had a lot of fun tonight. I really do appreciate everybody stopping in. I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. I hope the listeners out there enjoyed themselves. Before we head out, if anybody have any questions, we'll take a question here or there before we head out. Probably not. Sound like wait. Somebody said, y'all talking about Red Dead. I'm sitting over here waiting for Gamer to put on this Dragon Age review.
Here you go.
And Jay?
Hey, man, listen, bro.
They over here taking shots at Jay. Nah,
Jay,
but I want...
Past your bedtime. Shut up, Jay, man.
Oh, man. This is out of control. No, but I want to thank everybody for coming on the show. Before we head out, go ahead and let's start with Luke. Give us your next episode and anything you got coming up for Player 3 Podcast.
We do our episodes every Monday. The last episode we talked about the Quantum Break controversy and Assassin's Creed taking a year off. You can check that out over on youtube.com/player3podcast or on any of your podcast services, anything like that. And you can check out my writing over on twinfinite.net as well, where I write up news and feature articles.
Cool. BG.
Yeah, I can check out my channel.
BG like half asleep right now.
No, this is how you always sound.
I'm a little bit worse right now because I'm actually sleepy. But yeah, you can check out my channel, or if y'all don't know, Broken Games HD. And Weapon Wheels Podcast is on Saturday, 6 p.m. I'm on Twitter. Yeah, check me out.
All right. Gamer?
Yeah, man, despite me kind of being tired, I thought this podcast was really fun and really just a good podcast and good topics to be in. So, again, I appreciate you putting me in on the podcast. And, yeah, everyone, have a good night.
No problem, no problem. Anchor. Really?
This man didn't even say nothing this whole podcast.
I know, right?
This man just sat back and listened.
I'm gonna go to bed. All right. See you.
Cool. Well, Tic Podcast, we'll have Ryan McCaffrey on the show tomorrow from Podcast Unlocked. That would be a very interesting show. I got some great talking points to chat with him about. We also will be chatting with the developers from The Long Dark in the next couple of weeks, and we also have the developers making this game called Nevermind, which is a horror game coming to Xbox One right around GDC, I believe March 30th. So, and I have a few other things lined up. You guys will hear about that. You can catch Tic Podcast everywhere on YouTube, iTunes, Apple. I said iTunes, Apple, same thing. You can catch us on Android as well as Windows, Podbean, and Stitcher app. So we're pretty much anywhere. Appreciate everybody stopping in. I'm your host, KORSKLL, the last son, and we are out of here. Peace.
Peace.